All right, guys, welcome back for Unit 2 Discussion 4. This is our last discussion for Unit 2, and we're just going to review some science literacy things and then discuss fossil fuels briefly. So remember when we're looking at a science article, whether it's for research or just to better understand a topic, it's typically broken down into these 6 sections. You're going to have an abstract, and this is going to tell you what the article is about, and you're going to find this right at the top of the article or on the cover sheet if it has one. Then you're going to have an introduction. This is where you find background information and the hypothesis of the research. If you're not familiar with the topic that you're reading about, this is a really key area to look because they're going to tell you what you need to know to understand what comes after. Following that's the method, and this is the procedure that's used to test the hypothesis. So typically with science research articles, it's because they've done an experiment, and so the method is going to tell you step by step everything that they did. And when you are writing your own research papers later on, it's going to be very important that you also go step by step because the purpose of this section is so that anybody else around the world could pick up their article and then reproduce their experiment to either confirm the results or to rebut them and say, hey, no, you were wrong or you were right. After the method comes the results sections. And this tells you what their test or what their experiment found. This is going to have data, graphs, charts. This is not actually going to discuss the results, though. This is just going to present the facts as they gathered them. Then you have the discussion session, and this is going to look at the results. It's going to ask, did it match the hypothesis? What do we think happened? Did something weird happen during the experiment that we need to note in case anybody tries to reproduce it, like a part didn't work or there was an unexpected disturbance? All of that goes here in the discussion section. And then last but not least, we have our conclusion, and this is our wrap up and final notes. We sometimes find the conclusion attached as part of this discussion, but normally it's going to be on its own. And what you'll find here will also include ideas of maybe where they want to go next with the research or where it could use clarification. Things like that will go in this section. So I want to put a note here. You do not always have to read a full article for science to understand the information that you need to get from it. If you are just trying to get an idea about a topic and want to see some of the most current research, you probably don't need to look at the method section or even necessarily the results section if you just read the introduction and the discussion. And this is true when you're doing research and stuff. If you are not trying to deep dive into that topic yourself or trying to make an evaluative judgment on how sound was the research, and you just want to know the overall information, then really the abstract, the introduction, and then that discussion is going to have all you need. All right, so related to the anatomy of our science articles, our article summaries, these are really useful when you're writing papers because when you write a research paper later on or whenever you're doing research, you're going to be reading a lot of articles, you're going to be looking at a lot of sources. So if you write yourself a summary of each one and keep a note of it, then it makes it a lot easier to look back and say, oh, I want to cite this one, or maybe I want to clarify, like, wait, what did that one say? So by having a summary that encapsulates the information, it'll make it a lot easier to go do that. So what's in a summary then? You're going to have 3 components to your summary. You're going to say, what was the main idea? You're going to look at that introduction, at that abstract, and say, what was the topic? What was this whole article about? Then you're going to ask yourself, why is it important? Why did it matter? Did they discover something new? Did they make a claim? You want to see the importance and the impact of it. And then finally, you're going to want to briefly describe what supports their claims. You're either going to want to mention how they gathered their data or, what they said in the discussion section that supported it or didn't support it. So you're going to want to put a note there about, was the research sound? Did that help? All right, so that is our science literacy review. And now we're going to briefly go over fossil fuels. So the key information here for what we're going to talk about now with fossil fuels is that fossil fuels are created from ancient organic matter that has been subjected to extreme heat and pressure for extended periods of time. Think coal, think oil. Burning these fossil fuels releases huge amounts of carbons into the atmosphere because living material, organic material, is mainly carbon, right? And so that carbon gets squished down and squished down and squished down until it's really dense, just large group of carbons. So when you burn it, it gets back into the atmosphere. However, the flip side of this is that burning them provides a lot of energy in the form of heat energy. So there are benefits if you're in a pinch and you need energy to run something to burn a fossil fuel in order to create that. However, the extraction of these fossil fuels also dramatically impacts our ecosystems. So, deforestation, drilling, and fracking can damage the Earth's layers. These things also contaminate groundwater. We are going to talk more in Unit 6 about climate change and human impact. So, we're actually going to come back to fossil fuels a bit later on, but I did want to start talking about it a little bit now as it tied into our carbon cycle and our other cycles that we've been talking about. All right, thanks, guys.